Welcome to Lens on the World. I'm your host, Xinyu Zhang. After nearly 100 shows, Window to China grows to cover more topics all over the world. So we are so excited to announce that Window to China will now be known Lens on the World. Today we are honored to have Virginia Delegate Lopez. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. My name is Alfonso Lopez. I'm the delegate from the 49th House of Delegates District in South Arlington and Eastern Fairfax. So I represent everything from Pentagon City to Bailey's Crossroads, with Columbia Pike as the spine of my district.
I heard about your childhood story. So can you tell us more about your family backgrounds? How has that have impact on you?
Sure. My dad is Venezuelan from the Andes Mountains of Venezuela. My mom is Pennsylvania Dutch from Central PA. So I'm half Venezuelan, half Pennsylvania Dutch. My dad was one of 22 brothers and sisters from the same parents. My grandmother had her first child when she was 14, her last child when she was 44 years old. And my dad came to this country when he was 19 with $260 in his pocket and the dream of a better life. He didn't want to be a farmer. He learned English. He became a busboy and a waiter, and he graduated from Northern Virginia Community College when I was 5 years old, and then took one class a semester every year while he was working 2 jobs at George Mason University, actually, until he graduated from college 1 month before I graduated from high school. One thing that's pretty cool about my dad is that when I worked at the White House, I was able to take him to the White House. And I only ever saw him cry 3 times. But when he came back in the car, he kept saying, "Solamente en los Estados Unidos, solamente en los Estados Unidos."
What does that mean?
In Spanish, that means only in America, only in America.
Oh.
And so he came from literally abject poverty in the Andes Mountains of Venezuela to see his son work at the White House and work for the President of the United States, not at the White House, but work in the Obama administration, and then to get sworn into the House of Delegates in Virginia, which I think for him is a very special journey.
Right, so everything could come true in U.S. So why did you decide to run for the Virginia delegate? I mean, you work at White House. The White House, I mean, everyone's dreams about that job could working at the
Well,
White House.
I worked I was in the first intern class in the Clinton White House so I worked for a summer in the West Wing of the White House, and then as a member of the Obama administration, I was the assistant administrator of the Small Business Administration. I would work back and forth. I'd do several meetings of the White House, but I worked in the state government and the federal government. I worked on Capitol Hill as an aide to a senator, U.S. senator, and then I was also a cabinet level appointee for Governor Kane, where I headed up congressional and federal affairs for Virginia. And I got to tell you, one thing I really loved about running myself was that instead of actually writing words for another person, instead of actually advocating for someone else, I was putting forward my own feelings, talking about things from my own perspective, and fighting for the people in my community, my friends and my neighbors, and doing it the way I thought was best. So that's why I ran.
As a state delegate, what do you work on? I mean, like you said, you gain the confidence, you feel the personal. So what have you achieved?
Well, I've worked on any number of things, from the environment and renewable energy to the DREAM Act to gun violence prevention issues to affordable housing. I was proud of the fact that one of the first bills I passed was the first affordable housing trust fund in Virginia history. That was built on the work of State Senator Mary Margaret Whipple, and then she never got it across the finish line, but I was able to take her work and then take it that extra yard across the finish line and get it passed. And it's a very important issue for people in my district and across the Commonwealth, because we don't have enough money for affordable housing in this Commonwealth. And just the Affordable Housing Trust Fund in California has over $1 billion. In Virginia, we have around 8 million every year, and we have to be capitalizing it more and doing more in the area of affordable housing, especially for areas like Northern Virginia, where issues of affordability and affordable are very big problems.
The gentleman from Arlington, Mr. Lopez. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise for a personal privilege.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, as many of you know, affordable housing is an issue that is incredibly important to me and to the people of my district. However, affordable housing is not just an issue that affects my neighbors in the 49th, but an issue that touches the day-to-day lives of all Virginians. The ever-increasing cost of housing is having a serious impact on the daily budgets of people across the Commonwealth. Over the past 5 years, increases in rental costs throughout Virginia have significantly outpaced the growth in Virginia's median family income. For most Virginians, that means less food on the table, less fuel in the gas tank, fewer bus and metro tickets, waiting longer to visit the doctor to receive vital health care, and smaller savings for college tuition and retirement. According to a recent study of American rental housing by Harvard University, more than half of U.S. renters, that's 21.1 million households, were cost-burdened in 2012. That means these households are paying more than 30% of their income for housing. This is the greatest number of cost-burdened renters on record. A new study from the Urban Institute shows that just how bad affordable housing situation is in the U.S. Nationally, there are only 29 affordable and available rental units for every 100 extremely low-income renter households. What's more, Virginia has the highest average rental rates in the entire Southeast. We are reaching a tipping point. If we continue to kick the can down the road rather than address this crisis, we may find ourselves too late to avert disaster. According to a recent report by the George Mason Center for Regional Analysis, over the next 2 decades, Northern Virginia is expected to experience the highest job growth in the D.C. metropolitan area, but only if we have the housing necessary to attract skilled workers to fill these positions. To attract new workers, the region will need to have a sufficient supply of housing that meets the needs of the future workforce, is also affordable given the wage structure of the economy, and is located near emerging and growing job centers. If we do nothing to address these issues, the lack of housing, increasing traffic congestion, and declining quality of life will make it more difficult for businesses to attract workers and less attractive for new firms to locate in Northern Virginia. Because Northern Virginia is a major economic engine for the Commonwealth, contributing a significant amount of tax revenue, solving this housing crisis should be one of our top priorities. In addition to threatening the stability of our economy in Northern Virginia, George Mason also finds that the lack of a comprehensive strategy to address affordable housing in Richmond could risk this region's quality of life and economic vitality as well. The same is true for Hampton Roads, where housing affordability is expected to be a major challenge because job growth is projected to be mostly in sectors with median wages of less than $50,000. In order to meet the growing demand for affordable housing across the Commonwealth over the next 2 decades, we need to change the way we think about affordable housing in the General Assembly. Rather than treating affordable housing as a burden or an afterthought in our budget, we need to start treating affordable housing the same way we treat transportation or education. These are investments in our infrastructure that are necessary to support economic development and sustainability. We need to make affordable housing a budget priority and a business priority so that we do not stifle the potential for future economic development before it even may begin. Both the government and the business community need to work together to study best practices across the country, develop a comprehensive strategy, and find innovative solutions that fit Virginia. One such solution that I've been working on over the past 2 years is the Virginia Affordable Housing Trust Fund. While we've made incredible strides in implementing this tool, and it's affected over 700 families in just the 1 year we funded it, we can be doing so much more to provide substantial dedicated funding. If we wait until the lack of affordable housing units starts to impact the bottom line of businesses across the Commonwealth, it may already be too late to reverse course and fix this problem. For Virginia families struggling to put food on the table and wondering how they're going to pay their rent at the end of this month, doing nothing is simply not an option. With so much at stake, Mr. Speaker, the General Assembly needs to act now to address this crisis and make sure that Virginia remains the best place to live, work, and raise a family.
Like college students, they're really concerned about the finance, get the, loan, something like that. Especially for the students without the citizenship,
right.
Probably they need more. Do you have any opinion on
Yes, I
the
do.
DREAM Act?
Yes, that was the first bill I put in every year, and it became it will be the first bill I put in every year until it becomes the law of the Commonwealth, part of the
Okay.
code. A lot of people not many people knew about my dad, but a lot of people knew my mom.
Okay.
My mom was a fairly prominent guidance counselor at Washington Lee High School in Arlington, and she worked with immigrant and ESL kids, English as a second language kids, and literally because of her, over 1,000 children who could have been forgotten by the system not only graduated from high school, but they graduated from college. She was that kind of teacher where people would come over and have barbecues at our house, and then she knew that they needed to, they weren't eating during the week or eating on weekends. She'd have them come to her house and have a barbecue. She was an incredible teacher. And so with her, I was sort of working on DREAM Act issues even before we called these kids dreamers. And what we want to be able to do is take a piece of what the federal government did and what they're trying to accomplish as a part of the comprehensive immigration programs and apply it to Virginia, which basically means that in-state tuition should be available for children who have graduated from our high schools, can prove that they've paid taxes for 3 years, and are going through the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival program, which is the DACA program, which has been a part of what the Obama administration has put forward. And this is a way that they can prove that they're, here, they want to stay here, and I think the benefits for us are incredible because these kids, without a path forward after high school, they become disinterested in continuing, they become very despondent, and we lose their talent. Because the problem is you've got kids who are valedictorians, top of their class at high schools all around the state, who find out while they're applying to college that they're undocumented. You've got kids who apply to, can get into Ivy League schools and get full rides, but can't go to UVA or William & Mary or ODU or Virginia Tech on in-state tuition. And sometimes they can't even afford to go to community college. And so what we're trying to do is make it easier for these kids to get in-state tuition and make it that much easier for them to afford to take that next step and continue their education after high school.
Has the bill passed?
No, the bill didn't pass, but it did become the law of the Commonwealth through a brief written by the Attorney General back in April of 2014. It basically changed the interpretation that had been there before that said that these kids were not domiciled here. In fact, the Attorney General, Mark Herring, said that they were domiciled here and were eligible for in-state tuition. So as long as the Attorney General is the Attorney General, these children will have access to in-state tuition.
Even this passed, do they have some requirement for certain students have provide like documents, something?
Yes, they have to go through a fairly rigorous process with the federal government. And so these are kids who want their education. They go through not only the financial aid process, not only the application process, but they're also availing themselves of an incredibly difficult Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals process with the U.S. government. And so if a kid does all of that, you know they want it.
So we are having the Virginia Delegate Lopez with us at Studio C at Fairfax Public Access. So if you want to join us, please call 571-749-1142. We're going to come back with you in 2 minutes.
Art, a universal language, an expression of culture, of self. And now, thanks to Empowered Women International, a way for emerging and established immigrant and refugee artists and artisans to find hope to earn a living while enriching the lives of all of us. Empowered Women International, making a better America every day. For more information on Empowered Women International's educational programs or to make a tax-free donation, contact cfrip@aol.com.
Here, kitty, kitty. Here, kitty, kitty, kitty. Here, kitty, kitty.
You'd think it would be easy to tell which kids have trouble with their eyesight. But that's not always the case. Even though 1 in 4 children may have a vision problem, eye doctors tell us the symptoms aren't always so obvious. We do know that 80% of all childhood learning is visual. And without good vision, kids can have trouble learning to read and may fall behind in school. For clues on how to spot the real-life signs of childhood vision problems and what parents can do, visit checkyearly.com. A public service message from the Vision Council of America and Reading is Fundamental.
Welcome back, Lens on the World. We are having Delegate Lopez with us on Channel 10. Oh, we have a caller. Is caller on now?
Hello?
Yeah, hello. Thank you for calling. So what's your question?
Hi, I was calling to ask, what is Virginia doing to protect and preserve our environment for future generations, and is it enough?
So that's the question for Delegate Lopez.
I don't think it is enough. Right now, I just founded last year with a few of my friends in the House of Delegates and the Senate, the Virginia Environment Renewable Energy Caucus. And right now, Virginia is ranked the 5th worst state in America for toxic dumping. We don't do nearly enough in terms of renewable energy funding. We don't do enough in terms of overall protection for, I think, brownfield sites for runoff into the Chesapeake Bay. We do a lot, but we're only beginning to do a lot after decades of I think, benign neglect. What we need to be doing is taking advantage of the resources we have and also protecting the resources we have. We're only now beginning to talk about things we should have been doing 15, 25, 40 years ago when it comes to clean air, runoff, and renewable energy. I mean, honestly, Virginia should be the leader in the Mid-Atlantic for renewable energy. We're talking about, solar in the valley, wind off the coast, hydrokinetic in our rivers. The best place in America to grow switchgrass, which is a biofuel, is in Martinsville, Virginia, a place in real need for jobs. And so what we're doing is we're leaving tens of thousands of jobs on the table and hundreds of millions of dollars in new taxes and revenue for the state on the table by not investing in renewable energy the way we should be.
So what goal is for Virginia to set up the green energy? So do you think in near years it's going to develop a lot?
I hope so, yeah.
Energy?
I think what's happening is corporate America is now realizing that solar is getting to the point where it's much more easy to build, it's much more reliable, and I think after last year with what we were able to accomplish with the Dominion bill, including around 500 megawatts of solar, and then also the idea that this is in the Commonwealth's best interests is a very significant step in the right direction.
Thank you for calling. Are you still on? That's the right answer for you? Oh, thank you. So it's off. So it's Governor Terry McAuliffe, I heard about, had said you are a fighter. I mean, except for some subjects you mentioned before, why you got this character?
I don't know. I care deeply about the issues that matter to our community. I care deeply about our budgets, which I think are moral documents, and our priorities that we make at the state level. And I feel like a lot of the time we've been gerrymandered in such a way that even though the state is really a 50-50 state, maybe 52-53% Democrat, when you look at how we vote for our statewide elected officials, we've been gerrymandered in such a way that it's 67 Republicans to 33 Democrats in the House of Delegates right now. And that doesn't help anybody, because the gerrymandering makes it very partisan in how we elect our local elected officials and elected Democrats. So there's not enough compromise, there's not enough give and take, I think, in the House of Delegates. But I'm a fighter because I stand up for the things I think matter for our Commonwealth. I stand up for things like affordable housing, like maybe we should have some sensible gun violence prevention measures. Maybe we should invest in renewable energy. Maybe we should care about our environment and protect it. And maybe we should fundamentally change how we fund education in Virginia. Because, oh gosh, a lot of our communities are falling backwards in terms of funding and how we take care of our kids.
So yeah, how about redistricting? I remember last time you went to the special session for that issue. Has that had something coming out?
We are waiting on what the courts are going to do with the congressional lines, and it could be rather dramatic what they try to do across the state. It could be a small fix around Congressman Bobby Scott's district, which is an interesting district. If you look at a map, Bobby Scott, to stay within his district lines, would have to take a boat twice because there's no way to get around his district or without going to someone else's district. But also there's a similar court case. Same prosecuting attorney, same theory of law, same court, the Rocket Docket in Alexandria, in the federal district court, affecting 12 House of Delegates districts. Now, what's happening is they're saying that there's been packing of minorities into these districts, which then dilutes the overall impact of those communities of interest in the surrounding districts. So what that means is that if everything moves forward the way we think it will, and if we're supposed to have any day now getting a decision down from the federal district court about this case, you could see us having to go back again to redraw the lines that make them more fair for the state. But then also, there's a chance we might run in 16. So just like we had to do in 81, 82, and 83, we might have to run in 15, 16, and 17. But if we run in new lines, new districts in 16, you're looking at a significant increase in overall turnout, which I think will help Democrats. So you can see the House of Delegates become much more evenly split as opposed to the way it is right now. So you're looking at a 6 to 11 seat pickup like that, and Richmond becomes a very different place. And all of a sudden then, if the gerrymandering works well, we'll start having real dialogue about the environment, real dialogue about gun violence prevention, and a real dialogue about social safety net funding.
So you mentioned gun violence. So what do you believe must be done to prevent gun violence? A lot of people say, even Governor Terry McAuliffe, U.S. Senator Tim Kaine, and U.S. Senator Mark Warner spoke in the rally, say whatever it takes to prevent gun violence. What do you think is number one things must be done?
Oh, well, there are any number of things, but I think the most important thing right now is universal background checks. We don't have universal background checks in Virginia, and we need that. But over the years, they've done everything to take away, some gun violence prevention issues. Like, there used to be a one handgun a month law in this state, and that the NRA just whittled away at until it became toothless, and they actually got rid of it a couple years ago. And so I put forward legislation last year that basically said 3 and 4-year-olds children who are just learning how to name colors and tell time should not be given a firearm by a parent or someone acting as a parent.
Yeah, we will come back with you, the gun violence. I have another caller in. Hi, caller, what's your name?
Hi, my name is Sandra.
Okay, do you have any questions for Delegate Lopez?
Yes, Delegate Lopez. I have a question concerning the economy. And my question is, what can Virginia do to grow the economy and create more jobs?
The job is important.
Yeah, this governor has been pretty adamant about making sure that jobs in the economy are the most important thing. There are any number of things we could be doing. One thing is supporting the governor's Commonwealth Investment Fund and making sure that he has the ability to incentivize Fortune 500 companies coming into the Commonwealth and putting businesses, headquarters, manufacturing plants in Virginia. The other thing we can do is pass Medicaid expansion, which will actually help us and help incentivize jobs coming to the states, coming to the state. Because right now, Lee County just lost a hospital. All right, what CEO is going to go and put their economic development dollars, their business, their call center in Lee County, knowing that you have to drive 85 miles away if you have a heart attack or a stroke, or go to West Virginia.
Right, that's not
so
convenient.
that would be an important thing. The third thing I'm doing is I've been working over the last year with the Secretary of Commerce and a lot of businesses and associations to change the definition of what a small business is in Virginia. Right now, it's just one size fits all definition. It's 250 employees or 10 million in annual revenue. That covers 95.6% of all businesses in Virginia. It's completely unfair. It's not true right size for what a small business really is. What I was suggesting we do, and what my legislation will do, is it will apply the federal size standards that the Small Business Administration puts forward and updates every 3 years, and apply those to the state definition. That way, you won't have a problem with McManus Corporation in Baltimore, Maryland, which is 13 employees, but has $4 billion in annual revenue, qualifying as a small business against a real mom and pop shop or a future Apple computer being run out of somebody's garage, which is a real small business. The size standard's all about. Because under our SWAM program, the Small Women and Minority-Owned Businesses procurement process in the state, there's a set-aside for all three of these kinds of businesses. But at the end of the day, if a small business is really a 250 employee business or a business that makes less than 10 million, who gets hurt? The small the women and minority-owned businesses. So this is making it more of an even playing field.
Wow, we still have more one talk. Your conversation is really helpful. Thank you so much for having you today.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Okay, thank you for watching. We will see you next time.